what can I do? And the doctor just, my oncologist just take some Advil, just take Advil. It's not going to hurt you. You're in pain, just take Advil, and nobody talked about diet.
Maggie, how did you find carnivore?
Well, Dave, thank you for having me on. I would say that initially, this is my second time actually doing the carnivore diet. The first time I discovered carnivore was back in, I'm going to say it was probably about 2019, but I had, my partner and I had switched from more of a vegetarian-based diet to keto diet, just trying to improve our health back in, I want to say it was about 2017, 2018. And we had discovered, of course, like Ken Berry, and, we were following him, and Paul Saladino as well. I think maybe he was a little bit later. But we were following Ken Berry on keto, and then we started hearing a lot more about more of just the meat-based diet. And I think that's where Paul Saladino came in, and then Ken Berry was talking more about it. And then, of course, I want to say it was about 2018. And then, of course, there was a Joe Rogan podcast, where I think the first one we saw, he was interviewing Sean Baker, and they were talking about carnivore. And I was thinking these people were just insane. I mean, because I had always had, eat very, very clean, what I thought was a very clean diet. I would eat meat. I never really took meat out of my diet too much, but, always had a little bit of meat, fish mainly, a little bit of chicken, and ate lots of fruits and vegetables. So I thought these people were insane. And on a whim, I just told my partner, I think I'm going to try this carnivore diet because these people are just insane. It cannot make them feel as good as they're stating. So I'm just going to do it for a week, see what happens. And, he thought I was insane, but I said, well, I'm just going to do it, So I did it, and, and like that first week, and I had some of the issues that everybody talks about, the intestinal issues, but then that just kind of went away. And it was like, wow, I felt really good. I mean, I just felt better. And so I said, I'm going to do it another week. And he's thinking, you're insane. It's like, I know, but it's just weird. I feel really good. There has to be something to this. So I kept going and kept going. And then finally he jumped on and he started doing it. And it was amazing. It's like, wow, we both felt really good. And also, when I was doing keto, I had a little bit of weight to lose just because I had moved from one state to another. My partner was doing most of the cooking, and he cooked with a lot more starches than I was used to. So I was gaining, had been gaining weight. And that was kind of the allure of keto, was that I felt like I could kind of go back to eating in a way that was a little bit more the way I, was used to eating. And so anyway, we went carnivore, and all of that weight just, that excess weight. And when I say excess weight, is probably 6 or 7 pounds, just came off. And, we continued doing carnivore for quite a while. And then over time, it just became more relaxed and more relaxed and more relaxed. And I would say right about when COVID hit, we were back to just doing more of keto. And then during COVID, we moved cross country. And not long after that, I would say in 2021, I went back to work again, because I wasn't working during that time. And once I started working in the office, this was an office where it's not a big office, but there were always a lot of treats. And, I love sugar. So even though we're eating keto, at home, I was still indulging at work, and just, somebody's birthday, hey, I'm going to have cake. Somebody brings in donuts, sure, chips, okay. I just eat whatever's there, right? And I come home and I'm just eating my keto diet. Slowly put on a couple of pounds. And then in 2020, the end of 2022, beginning of 2023, going in for, my general wellness checks, my mammogram came back. And I had to, go in for a couple of diagnostics, and it was determined I had grade 1, stage 1 breast cancer. And I was very fortunate because it was very early. I, got checked regularly. So it was very early. And with my diagnosis, I went in and I did a lumpectomy, and then I just had a reduction. So I didn't have to do the full, reconstructive surgery, and then also I didn't have to do chemo. It was just the lumpectomy and then some radiation. So I was very fortunate. I didn't have to go through, a lot of what, other women have to go through. My treatment was a lot less, invasive and trying, and it was just a matter of months. After the radiation, the doctor, of course, put me on 5 years of an anastrozole, which is an estrogen blocker. And the side effects for the estrogen blocker, in the beginning, excuse me, I didn't feel anything. And it took a couple of months for that to really kick in. I started experiencing a lot of bone pain and joint pain. And, the doctor says, well, maybe take Claritin and take some Advil. So I was doing that, and it was, sort of helping, not really. And, I was continuing to gain weight. And then I noticed like I couldn't do things. There were just certain things I couldn't do. I couldn't do squat. I wasn't working out so much, but I noticed like I couldn't do things like squats or just squat down. It was painful. Things were painful. And I couldn't. I had always been, very limber and would stretch all the time. And I just kind of lost that ability to do that. And I'm just thinking, what is going on? I'm gaining this weight. I was up to about 134 pounds, which is big for me. I'm 5'2", it's a lot for me to carry. And, I just didn't really know, what can I do? And the doctor just, my oncologist just take some Advil, just take Advil. It's not going to hurt you. You're in pain. Just take Advil, and nobody talked about diet, never once did they talk about diet. Now, I did have to go in and do a DEXA scan because, of course, the medication, one of the side effects of the medication is it breaks down your bone density, right? So your bones get brittle, and then what they want to do is give you an infusion of like a reclass to help build your bones. But that's, there's negatives to that as well. So, I'm just going through all of this, just thinking I'm miserable. I don't know, this can't be it, and this can't be what my life is going to be like, going forward, for the next 5 years or 10 years or whatever. And so a couple of months had passed, and then I was on Facebook, and a Facebook friend, not a close friend, but just a, kind of an acquaintance I know on Facebook. She had put out a notice and asked some, like, hey, anybody out there ever try the carnivore diet? I'm thinking of doing it, and I just want to know the pros and cons. And I wrote back to her and I said, well, I did the carnivore diet, a few years ago, and I'd be happy to, share my experiences with you, blah, blah, blah. And I think she probably had, metabolic syndrome, and a couple of, she's probably pre-diabetes and stuff. And I just kind of shared my story with her, not that I didn't do it for anything other than I just wanted to try it because I thought these guys were insane, and, found out it felt really good. So, I was kind of going back and forth with her on that. And then I just sat there like, well, why, it just kind of like the light bulb goes off, right? Like, why am I not doing that? And so I started thinking about it, and then I started doing some research, and then I hadn't really been on YouTube looking at, keto or carnivore or anything for a few years. So then I see new people, in the space, like you're there, and, Anthony Chafee's there, and there's these, all these new people. And so I'm kind of following and, and just kind of watching and going down the rabbit hole. And I'm thinking, I really think I need to do this because maybe it can help me. At least it'll help me lose, some of this weight. I can't imagine gaining, 5 pounds every 6 months because I'm taking this medication. So going back and forth with this Facebook friend, I just thought, well, I think there's there's probably a lot of positives to it, and you should try it, and you don't have to go hardcore. You can always kind of just, go at different levels or phase it in. So I was thinking about it for a couple of weeks. And then one day, like the last Friday of the month, we typically have an employee breakfast at work, and it usually consists of, like cinnamon rolls and donuts, and it's always, the really tasty sweet stuff. And then we always get a little fruit on the side just to make everybody feel good. And so that particular day, I forget what we were having, like sausage biscuits, or it was just something that was just, with like jelly all over, jam all over them. And I ate a couple of those, and I was just sitting in my office thinking, I feel terrible. And I said, that's it. I'm starting carnivore right now. And I literally picked up my purse and walked across the street. We have a grocery store across the street from our office. And I walked over there, and I bought a couple of ribeyes. I bought some grass-fed, beef. Went and bought some, got some butter, like Kerrygold butter, and, a few things, and brought it home. And so when I got home, I told my partner, I said, Dom, don't cook for me. I'm going carnivore. And he's like, what? And it's like, yeah, don't cook for me anymore. I'm just eating meat. I'm just going to do this and see what happens. And that was Friday. So Friday night, I went out to the grill, made myself a ribeye, had that for dinner. It was so good. And then, just kept doing that over the weekend. And then I went shopping, for more meat and, some free range eggs and things that I knew that I needed. And I just, that was it. And, that was Friday. So Friday night was my first carnivore meal. And then Monday morning, it was odd. I went to work, like I get up, I get dressed, go to work Monday morning. And I remember like walking in the office to go get my coffee. And I'm thinking, I don't know, like my joints felt really good. Like they hadn't felt like, and I'm moving, like, I feel like I have, my movement back or my flexibility back. And I thought that was really, it was interesting. So I went home that night and I jumped on the scale. I lost 9 pounds. And so, yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, 9, that was crazy. I mean, it was like 3 days. And I haven't hurt since then. It was just, there was no pain, from that morning. It was like, it occurred to me, like, there's no pain. Like I couldn't before with my joints, my joints and my bones. I could stand. It didn't matter if I was walking, standing, running, although I wasn't doing much running, but, just on my feet for about 45 minutes or an hour. And then I had to kind of just sit for a while before I could get back up because it just always hurt, So that was just gone. That was it. Monday morning, I woke up, it's gone, and so I waited about 3 weeks, and then I joined the gym. I want to say I joined the gym probably 4 weeks. I'll say 4 weeks, and joined the gym and started doing resistance training, lifting weights, and doing the kinds of things I need to do to kind of help with the osteopenia, as well. So kind of lifting the weights, the resistance training, and then not really. I used to be a runner, so I used to run, 4 to 6 miles a day back, before COVID, but not doing the long runs anymore. Now I just do sprints. That seems to be the thing that, a lot of carnivores talk about, doing sprints. And it's like, so I started sprinting, and I'm amazed at how much I can sprint and how fast I can go. I never really sprinted before, even though as a runner, it's just not something I practice. So, have been doing that. But the challenge with, I don't have any real challenges with just eating the meat. I mean, I, basically animal based. I probably say 98, 99% of the time I do drink lemon water. And then sometime every once in a while I'll eat some berries. I think over the summer, I had like some watermelon and a peach just because I like them and just wanted to taste them, so I didn't feel like the summer passed without having them. But for the most part, totally, completely animal based. There was another symptom I wanted to talk about too, that the anastrozole caused is, and I feel it still is, kind of like you get a little bit of chest. Not everybody gets it, but like a chest congestion. I always felt like, my lungs always felt like there was just a little congestion in there. And I'd have this cough, kind of just this like, constant cough. And I would say that has gone away probably 80%. I'm not going to say 100%. It's still there. And I notice when I'm lifting or if I'm sprinting, I kind of notice that, where you just kind of get that, cough, kind of gag feeling, but it's way, way better than it was as well. But to me, that was so secondary compared to like the joint pain I was feeling. So yeah, I mean, a really simple story, just decided to do it. It took me about 72 hours. That's it. And
That's awesome.
I feel
Um,
I did when I was 40, I mean, I feel normal, like a normal person.
and sorry, Maggie, how old are you now?
Almost 60.
Yeah, it's amazing, right? It's like reverse aging, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it really is. And I guess I've always felt like I was aging really well up until probably the last 6 or 7 years. When I quit running and I was traveling a lot and just I had always been like, I don't want to say the gym rat, but always working out, always doing a lot of resistance training, doing the classes, doing the running, doing everything. And then I just stopped, and I felt like by the time, I don't know, by the time I had to go through my treatment, at the end of that, it was just, it was, I don't know, I felt, easily 20, 30 years older. I mean, I never had felt my age before, and I felt my age, and so starting this, it's like, once I went back to carnivore, yeah, I feel like I did when I was 40. So I'm doing the same things in the gym, other than the long runs, because they don't really want me doing that with the osteo, but, um, doing the long runs, doing really good resistance training, probably doing better resistance training than I was back then, because I'm more serious about doing the things that I need to do to help build back the bone strength. And I think back then I would do the things that I like to do, and I didn't do the things that I, didn't like to do as much, but now I'm really concentrating on, whether I like it or not, I'm doing those things. And so, but yeah, the strength has, I don't think my strength has come back completely from when I quit, because you don't just get that in, 4 or 5 months. It's going to take probably a year or so to build back all of that strength. But yeah, definitely able to do pretty much everything that I was doing before. And
That's
yeah,
fantastic.
yeah.
That's
So,
awesome. So how are you eating day to day now?
yeah. So I eat red meat probably just about every day as my primary. That's kind of going to be my primary meal. And so what I typically do is I'll buy like ribeye, I'll buy skirt steak. A lot of times I just go in, and so I can go into the grocery store in the morning and I look at what meat has been marked down, and that kind of determines, what it's going to be. It might be in New York, it might be, ribeye or whatever. Sometimes it's just the cheaper cuts. It doesn't matter. I'll just buy it. I always also buy, I do eat grass fed when I can. So usually I'll buy a lot of grass fed ground beef, and I always have that just stocked. And so I try to eat that a couple times a week. I usually eat about 2 ounces of liver a week. I don't really like it, but I know it's good for me, so I try to swallow it down. I also go to our farmers market and pick up beef from a local farm here in town, or just outside of town. But yeah, typically it's going to be about a pound of meat, red meat, whatever that is, is going to be. And then sometimes I will eat a little bit of salmon, like some smoked salmon or a few shrimp, or, I always try to have just maybe something else, whether it's going to be shrimp or salmon. Sometimes it could be chicken wings. I'll kind of fry up in the air fryer like some chicken wings and bring a couple of those in just to kind of give some variety. If I don't have that, occasionally I'll buy some cottage cheese or something along those lines, if I feel like I need something in addition to. The other thing I'll eat, I usually buy free range local eggs. And but I find that I don't like the egg whites very much. So a lot of times I just kind of get rid of the egg whites and I will just cook up the yolks or eat the yolks. I'll just cook up a couple of those. I don't know, the whites just they make me feel funny. I wouldn't say they cause inflammation. I don't really notice inflammation. I just feel better when I pull them out. So I don't eat the whites. But yeah, so typically about a pound of meat and then, red meat and then maybe a little side of something else. At night, I don't normally eat I'm kind of more of a one meal a day. If I do eat anything at night, like sometimes after lifting, I might have a couple of bites of something. Sometimes I make my own jerky. So I'll make either like a beef jerky or salmon jerky. So if I get home from the gym and I feel like I need something, I'll eat a couple of pieces of that. And I usually cook the night before because I bring my food into work. So I'll go out on the grill or I'll just cook the night before. And so if I'm hungry, I'll eat like a bite of whatever it is, a bite or two of whatever it is that I've made. But pretty much one meal a day. When I get up in the morning after I have my coffee, I usually also have a cup of bone broth. I make my own bone broth. I get those from the butcher from the farmer's market. So I make my own bone broth. And so I will drink about a cup of that with some, add some of always keep the tallow in there and then add some butter. And so I have about a cup of that a day, but that's about it. Every couple of weeks, if we go, so we don't go out to eat very much anymore. There's a couple of places we can go. If I know that I'm going to be going out to eat, I probably would eat about half that, maybe half my meal in the morning. And then I'll eat, when we go out, the other half of the meal when we go out. I do occasionally drink wine. So if we're going out with friends or, meeting somebody for happy hour, I have probably about a 2-ounce limit that I'll drink. A full glass is just too much for me. I'll drink about 2 ounces. It doesn't seem to affect me. And
Yeah.
that's about it. But for the most part, it's going to be, I drink coffee and then, have my cup of coffee in the morning and then I'm just drinking water pretty much.
Nice.
So,
So, how are the people at work now that you're no longer partaking in the snacks?
yeah, I don't know. They just, they don't really, we have a few, couple of people at work that are like gluten-free, so we all have kind of weird diets. I always, when it's somebody's birthday and we go into the kitchen and, open the, do the cake, I go in there and stand around. But the good news is I'm not thinking about that cake all the time. Back in the old days, we get this big cake and then we put it in the fridge because there's not that many of us there, and so this cake would be in the fridge. So the next day I'd come to work and all I could think about is that cake. So I'd go make my coffee and I'd have cake for breakfast. And if it's there the next day, I would eat it the next day. And then, and I don't do that now. But yeah, I go in and, just, it doesn't bother me. The employee breakfast still go on. So sometimes I'll make chaffles, I'll just take like egg and cheese and make chaffles. I'm sure people have talked about those, right? We make those sometimes. So I'll bring those in and put a little butter on them and that's what I'll have. Or sometimes I'll bring in a couple of strips of bacon or something and eat that. Who doesn't love bacon, So when we do the employee breakfast, yeah, a lot of times there isn't stuff for me, but I'll just bring in what, something that I can sit down and eat with them. Yeah. So it's not really a problem. I think the hardest is, going out with friends. And then like I went to this lunch with a group of women and the restaurant that one of the girls picked, there were a lot of vegan options on the menu, but there weren't that many other options, And so I noticed they had things like eggs, and they had bacon. And I wasn't sure. They couldn't give me an answer as to what the eggs would be cooked in. And so I didn't want to take the chance with any seed oil. So I just said, you know what? Just give me 2 sides of bacon. And that's what they brought me for lunch, like 2 little sides of bacon, and everybody felt, it's like, oh, they felt so bad. It's like, you don't, I'm used to this. We're used to this, right? We know when we go out, it's going to be a challenge. I ate before, and now I'm having a little snack now because, you always, I always eat before we go somewhere, unless I know I've been there before and I know they can give me what I need. And I have 2 or 3 places we can do that I know I can get served exactly what I want, cooked exactly the way I want. And then I'll eat there. But yeah.
Yeah. How nice is it to not have those feelings for the cake and the junk food anymore? It's like the connection's just broken.
Yeah, it is. And it's not to say that I don't ever crave anything sweet. Every once in a while I do. And when that happens, I also, I buy from a local dairy raw heavy cream, and I put that in my coffee in the morning. The raw cream seems to, I feel better, drinking the raw cream as opposed to the pasteurized. So I've been buying raw cream, put that in my coffee in the morning. I never sweeten my coffee. I've just never liked sweet coffee. But if I feel like I want something sweet, I'll take some of that heavy cream, and I have some allulose. So I'll put a little bit of allulose, a little bit of cinnamon in there, because cinnamon usually will make things feel a little sweeter. And I'll have some of that. And then that will just curb it. And then it goes away. So every once in a while, it's just, if I'm going to have something that has a little bit of sweet to it, it's going to be something that I choose and I know what it is. It's not going to be something from some other unknown source. I don't know how they make it. But one of my strategies at work to combat the urge to eat those things is I cook my food the night before. So for instance, when we're done with our interview, I'm going to go out and I'm going to grill. I've got a ribeye waiting for me. I'm going to grill that. I box it up, and I'll probably take some salmon and take it to work tomorrow. My eating window is from about 9:30 to 11:30 a.m. So I start eating about 9:30 a.m. in my office, and that's where I eat, and that's when I eat. And I like to do that because a lot of those treats are brought in the afternoons. I have absolutely no desire for that. I'm not hungry. I'm not thinking about anything. I just start eating in the morning, 9:30 to 11:30, done eating. Nothing looks good, tastes good after that. And so, yeah, so I don't, it's great not to have the urges, but I don't know. I don't know if I didn't eat, would I be tempted? So I've just taken that out. So.
Yeah, it's always good to be prepared like that and just know that, I feel full, so I don't need to have anything else,
Right.
Yeah. So your partner's joining you on this again?
Yes, he is. As a matter of fact, he is. Probably about 2 or 3 weeks in, he just said, I think I'm going to do this too, because I think it's just going to be, it's just going to be simpler for both of us. And so, yeah. And so I still just buy my food for me, and he buys his food for him. I eat a lot of red meat. I will buy like some free range chicken. I'll eat a little bit of pork here and there. I find that I don't like pork and chicken, just don't seem to, I don't feel as good when I'm eating them regularly. So it's every once in a while. He eats a lot more pork than I do. And so we just, yeah, I cook for me, he cooks for him. And every once in a while we'll do something where we cook together. But for the most part, I just cook for me, prep my meals. And, we're not really eating, I don't eat dinner anymore. So it's not like we sit down and, that's just kind of taken away. We don't sit down and eat dinner. We don't share those meals anymore. Sometimes in the morning, we'll have coffee together, and, but the big meal has gone away. So
I in some ways, like of course, it's nice when you're eating together, but I like being able to break away eating from socializing or eating from having a relationship, like
Yeah.
uh, I I think that's part of the human race's downfall is that we've associated eating with socializing.
Right. Right, right. But I think it's also good when I know not everybody, their family is on board when they do something like this. And I think there's sometimes, you hear stories of people who, the family members, they're trying to sabotage it. I feel like I have sabotagers at work too, like, oh, are you sure you can't just have this cake? It's like, no, can't do it. Can't do it. And so, it's really good to have your partner who kind of shares that same. I mean, I think he'd be fine keto. We go out to eat and I'll get steak and I'll just say that's all I want on my plate. And if they give me, one place we go, they'll substitute the French fries or whatever with like broccolini or asparagus or whatever. Sometimes I leave it off my plate, but he'll eat it. So sometimes I'll put it on my plate and he'll get his and I'll just give him mine. So he will eat. He, probably would lean more towards ketovore. He's not as hardcore as I am on it. But, before when I was doing carnivore, I didn't really have a why. Why are you doing this? And now I do. I mean, there's a reason I'm doing this because I don't want to go back to, not being able to stretch or flex or just I don't want to have to carry that much weight around, and it's all water weight, right? Most of it was water weight. So of course I mentioned I lost the 9 pounds and then now I've lost 20 pounds in total, as of like last Sunday. So 11 pounds came off after that initial 9, but it's been 7 months. So it's been a very, very, very slow process for me to drop that weight. That wasn't my goal to lose the weight. I'm glad I've lost it. I'll lose a couple more pounds and I'll be like my old fighting weight, but that wasn't my primary goal. It's just a benefit that, that just happened. But it is good to have, we were talking about partners. It's good to have somebody, who is sharing what you're doing because they're not there trying to constantly encourage you to do things that aren't good for you.
Yeah, definitely. And, just on the weight loss that you talked about there, uh, it it's great that you can be on a diet where you're happy with what you're eating because it makes you feel good, and weight loss happens to be a nice side effect of that.
Right, right. And yeah, it is. And it's crazy, when you think about what I eat, like, oh, I'm gonna go snack on some butter now. If I'm a little hungry at work, I always keep like a thing of butter, and it's like I might just pop a little, tablespoon of butter, in my mouth or something. Doesn't happen very often anymore. In the beginning, you kind of you know how you get those feelings in the beginning, you're trying to adjust or whatever. But yeah. Yeah. So I'm never hungry. If I was hungry, I'd have another meal at night, but I'm just not that hungry, and usually it takes I don't know, a piece of bacon, a little piece of salmon jerky, a little teeny strip of salmon jerky, and that's it. It's like, oh, I'm not hungry anymore. So,
And personally, I feel like my life overall is so much more enhanced, of course, because of all the health benefits, but primarily because I'm not constantly thinking about food anymore.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
so nice. It's such a
yeah.
nice feeling.
Yeah, and and I thought about that too. Like one of the things I didn't mention was back when I first started running and lifting, and I was probably 39, 40, and I went I was working out and I was trying to figure out how I could do better, what I could do with my diet, to be better and to perform better. And I was already eating probably what would be considered a paleo diet because I just felt better eating, meats, fruits, and vegetables. And wasn't eating a lot of grains or anything anyway. Well, I decided maybe the next step would be to go vegan and see what that was like. I was thinking that would be a cleaner way of eating. And when I started, I don't know if I had mentioned this to you, when I had started this, the vegan journey that I did for 6 months, I was running 8-minute miles. So I'd run like 4 miles, 5 miles a day. And they were averaging, about 8, sometimes 8.5 minutes, but about 8-minute miles. And I would lift. And one of the things that I remember is, I could bench like 60 pounds. And what is that, like 40? I'm
In
trying to think.
kilos.
Yeah, in kilos. I'm trying to think of what the conversion is.
Yeah,
Weight.
my math is terrible. So
Yeah.
it's about half that. So it's
Yeah.
about 30 kilos.
60 pounds. And I'm doing this vegan diet, which was a lot of work. I would get up and, we're talking my weekly planning and, prepping my food and prepping so much food. I had to eat so much, so much food at work. And then I have to eat it this time. And then I have to eat it this time. And I have to eat it this time. And then, but I had to stop eating, 2 hours before I went to work out, because if I didn't, when I ran, I would feel sick, or, just all these things of just, it was so complicated, everything I had to do for this vegan diet. At the end of the 6 months, I stopped because I was thinking, I need animal protein. I mean, maybe other people don't, I don't know. But all of the plant protein that I was getting, and, and then doing the, the protein shakes with plant protein was not working. I went from an 8-minute mile in 6 months to running an 11-minute mile. And yeah, it was. And then when I would do my 4 miles, I was exhausted at the end. And then when I was lifting, and that was the weird thing, like I was lifting and it was like, I just couldn't, it was like I would shake. I remember doing those bench presses and just, that was my marker for me, just noticing my arms, just, trying to just shake. And it's like, I can't do this. What is, wow. And at the end of that, I just said, maybe other people can do it. Maybe they're smarter about it. I don't know. I need animal protein. So I started eating fish, like salmon and chicken were the first things I started eating again. And then I started, just eating a little bit of red meat and just went back to it. Within 3 weeks, I ran a 9-minute mile. And so, it's like when I say a 9-minute mile, my average was 9 minutes, a mile, for my 4, because I would run for, roughly 4 miles, so it was 9-minute miles. 3 weeks, that fast, it was just crazy. It was like, I'm doing something wrong. This is not working for me. And people always say, oh, well, you're just not, you don't have the right combo. You don't have the right mix. I can't spend all day long trying to figure that out. I just want to eat. And then I want to be able to work out at 4 o'clock in the afternoon when I go work out. And I want to be able to run, So the vegan experiment didn't work for me. I don't want to say I had intestinal issues or anything like that. It was just, for me, it was all about my performance, and that was not working. So I went back to my old, paleo, more keto diet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It always makes me laugh when the vegan response to, well, it didn't work for me, is, well, you just didn't do it right. You didn't mix the right things together, and it's like, nutrition's not meant to be that complicated. There's no animals out there that are worried about this stuff.
I was just trying to, how many more ingredients can I get in stuff? Because there's only so much you can eat, and it was too much. And so, yeah. So I went back to, I just thought, well, I'll never, I don't think I could ever be, vegetarian or vegan or whatever. I always have to, I know for my body, I know other people, they can do it wherever their ancestors are from. I don't know. Clearly my ancestors ate meat. And so from then on, it was just, I was always, always eating meat. So yeah. It is nice not to think about it. It's just, I'm going to cook my steak. I'm going to eat it. I'm done.
So is this it for you? This is the way you're going to eat going forward?
Yeah, I think, well, because this is the second time I've done it, and we just kind of float from keto to, to carnivore. Would we do keto, carnivore? And we were doing a little ketovore back to, keto. Yeah, I would see I see myself continuing eating primarily meat. I would probably, if I relaxed a little bit, would be a little bit more, I would probably eat berries and maybe some, the typical asparagus, broccoli, things like that. I don't see myself I try not to eat a lot of, other than the raw milk, I try not to eat a lot of dairy. Um, and so I probably would stick with the kind of dairy that I'm eating now. Sometimes I am able to get some a really good sheep yogurt from local farmer that I'll eat every once in a while. um, I forgot to mention that. So every once in a while I do that, and that's kind of a treat. um, but yeah, I see myself eating this way. um, I would say on the spectrum, of carnivore, ketovore going forward. Um, so I have to take the medication for about another 3.5 years is my, the doctor wants me on it for 5 years. I do think when I go see him in December, I'm probably going to tell him that I'm going to go off the anastrozole, the estrogen blockers. I'm not quite sure if I'm really benefiting from it or if it's really helping me that much. When you look at the percentages of when you take, it's like I'm going to move from 7% probability of recurrence up to maybe 12 or 13%. And so I'm just wondering why I'm doing that at my age, causing, all of these, having to deal with all of the side effects. So I'll probably go off of that in December when I see the oncologist again. But I probably would continue eating the way that I'm eating, because obviously having the protein and not having, the sugar and the carbs also lowers my risk of cancer. So, right. So, aren't I just replacing one thing with a more positive thing to prevent cancer? So,
Yeah, nice. So if a friend said to you, "Look, I wanna give this a go," what advice would you give them to get started with carnivore?
yeah. So I actually have had a couple of friends that have explored carnivore loosely. Um, and, the advice I gave to each of them is to just start. I know it sounds like a shock. I mean, when I talked about, what I did, it did seem shocking, but just start by eliminating things that you know are bad and start increasing, like, for example, your protein. So I have a friend who, she has an issue with her leg, and she has one leg that's slightly shorter than the other now, and she's a little bit older. I want to say she's probably in her mid 70s, and she has to walk with a walking stick now. She had a surgery on it, and on her leg, so it feels a little bit arthritic for her, and she has some slight balance issues because of it. So she went, I would say, ketovore. So she replaced a lot of her grains with, like for breakfast in the morning, instead of toast, she eats bacon and eggs. She switched any bread she eats. I told her if she's going to eat bread, just eat like sourdough. Make sure we have a really good bakery here that she can get just a good sourdough. Maybe eat just no more than a slice a day. Keep it to a minimum. Kind of reduce those. Just no sugar. Reduce the vegetables. Try to cut back on your fruits a little bit. And she did a lot of those things. And so after a few weeks, reporting back, hey, how are you doing? She says things that she noticed, well, first of all, her skin looked a lot better. She said her balance, she felt like her balance was a lot better. Like before, she always felt a little unsure when she's walking. And she felt a lot more confident in how she moves now, which is big, right? And she used to ride a bike years ago, and now she's thinking of going back on the bike. Might be a trike, but a bike. And so, and so I think that was really positive for her. So I think she's been sticking with it. She's not as hardcore as I am. I mean, and I wouldn't say she's carnivore. She probably went more keto, and, because it's a shock for people. Some people just are really resistant. And unless they have really, I think giving up the carbs is really hard for a lot of people who have eaten carbs their whole life. but she's cut back on them quite a bit, and she can definitely feel the difference. I have another friend who was really suffering from IBS and a couple of other issues, and she switched over as well. And then when she switched over, she's a nurse, and she found out there was another nurse in her office that was doing carnivore. But I had her switch over. You don't have to eliminate everything, just try to eliminate most things. It's like, but I like my vegetables. Okay, eat a couple of vegetables. Just don't eat the bread, don't eat the potatoes, don't eat just take all those out. Take a lot of that sugar out, so there's a lot of things that she's taken out. She can't do dairy. So she found a clean oat milk that she likes to have cream in her coffee. So she'll put the oat milk cream in her coffee, but it's a clean one. It doesn't have any seed oils or anything in it. So she's eliminated a lot as well. And her IBS went away. And, she of course dropped weight, and, and she's had a few other minor things go away. But yeah, her IBS went away. And then she started eating. She thought, well, maybe I can just eat some salads, So she started bringing salads to work. She's eating the salads for about a week. IBS came back. So she said, I know I can't eat the roughage, I can't do it. And so she learned. It's like it went away. She knew it went away. She felt great. She started adding some things back in and discovered I can't do that. And so she's taken them out. Now she's still not hardcore like I am. She's probably very ketovore. She's eating some berries and a couple of vegetables. And, again, we talked about the oat milk, and not going to fault her for any of that. She's probably 75, 80% carnivore, and it's made a world of difference. And I asked her, she knew I was coming on. I was going to kind of talk about this. Would you ever go back to eating the way you ate? And she said, no. So, I usually just tell people, start cutting things out. If you feel like you want to go cold turkey, go. I went cold turkey. I mean, that was it. I just went cold turkey. It's hard for people. It's really shocking, but, just make some change, just make these changes for a few weeks, see how you like it, make these changes, then make these, but they'll, in both cases of the two women that I encouraged, they felt a lot better, and, they had results. I mean, definite results of, loss of pain and discomfort, and, so
Yeah.
made a difference.
Yeah, that's awesome. So Maggie, is there a way that people can reach out to you? Do you have any social media or a way of getting in contact?
Yeah, the only social media I'm on LinkedIn. The only social media I really have is Facebook. I watch YouTube. I don't really have a YouTube channel. I'm not posting out there. I do have a Facebook page, and so I can give my Facebook, name to you if you want to put that in the comments. I could also list my email as well. I'm happy to answer questions for anybody who may be interested. If there's anybody who's watching who's kind of had a breast cancer diagnosis and is experiencing side effects, happy to chat with them about what they can do. Maybe small changes they can make to help alleviate any of those symptoms. So.
Thank you very much. Well, I'll share those below in the show notes. Thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your story, Maggie. I really appreciate your time.
Great. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.